Good evening, everyone, and welcome to session 3 of our Fitness and Wellness Initiative. Tonight, we are so pleased to be joined by a dynamic speaker, Miss Simone Bowe. I have the illustrious task of introducing her. And so, Simone Bowe is a seasoned speaker, certified corporate trainer, personal development, leadership advisor, men's empowerment advocate, educator, mentor, newspaper columnist, soulful singer, and radio and television host. She was named as a Caribbean Woman to Watch in 2018 and was honored as a Mentor of the Year by Project Bahamas 2022. She's authored 7 books. Simone has worked with small, medium, and large corporations in her areas of specialty and passion, shaping vision and strategy, facilitating executive and staff retreats, creating and refining company philosophy, and cascade leadership development. She's created a leadership development strategy, created succession planning strategies, executive and leadership coaching, leadership training, and design facilitation. Through cultural transformation, she's conducted research to determine root causes of problem challenges, formulated strategies to address root causes, and providing strategies to implement in the organization, improving processes, writing SOPs, organizing, helping executives identify cultural direction and partnership to create and execute strategic transformational campaigns. Simone has a Bachelor of Arts in English and a Master of Science in Career and Human Resource Development, along with numerous certifications. Simone has worked in both public and private sectors, currently the founder and lead consultant of the boutique training and consultancy firm Limitless Life. Our speaker for this evening, Miss Simone Bowe.
Thank you very much, Leo. It's such a pleasure to be here and to be partnering with Access Accelerator this evening in this very important series because, of course, as business owners and leaders, stress management becomes a thing that we really have to pay attention to, and making sure that we are certainly managing our lives as we run our businesses. And sometimes we can get out of balance with that. And we can certainly feel like our business is running us and we are not running our businesses. So it's really a pleasure. I love this topic. This is something that is definitely a part of things that I do personally and things that I would train leaders on how to do. And so it's great to see all of you here in the audience in Zoom and streaming live on Facebook. So good to have all of you. So I will jump right in so that we can maximize our time together. So if you are watching, wherever you're watching from, I want you to take a look at this picture here and tell me, is this how you feel at the end of your workday? As a business owner or leader, I want you to put a Y in the chat or in the comments if this is you. Is this how you feel at the end of the given day? Is this a yes? Yes, yes. Any yeses? Sometimes I see, oh, Alicia says a triple yes. Felice says, this is how I want to feel. Leo says, definitely not. But we've got a lot of yeses coming up. I'm enjoying the fact that you feel like this at the end of your day. And I would love to hear the secrets. And yes, some of us feel like this sometimes. It depends on the day, right? Like sometimes it could be this on a Friday. I'm feeling this because there's no more work, or I'm feeling this on a Saturday or Sunday. I had a great sales day on Saturday, woo, this feels good, right? So sometimes it's situational, right? But tonight we want to talk about how we could use delegation to get us to feel and look like this at the end of our work day. Are we ready to rock and roll? So here's the question. Why should we delegate? What is the importance of delegation in our lives? First reason is productivity. So if we do not delegate, and yes, it has everything to do with time management, right? And making space in our day to get more done. And that's really what productivity is. When you think about productivity, you think about input and output, what you put in and what you get out. So if you're able to delegate work to people, then you are able to get more done. And this is why we are in business, because we need to get more done. We want to scale, we want to take on more clients, we want to expand our businesses, but sometimes we feel trapped because, like the typical solopreneur, and that's me, right? I know what that's like when you're trying to be the chief cook, bottle washer, everything else, right? So you can get more done if you delegate. The next is growth. Now, this is on both your side and on the person that you're delegating to. So say, for instance, you have a team member, right? Someone, maybe an employee that works for you. You cause them to grow when you delegate more to them. One of the things that frustrates employees is when they feel that their leaders or their managers are hoarding the work, right? Keeping the work close to their chest and not sharing it. So you have people there who are ready and willing to do the work, but you're not giving it to them to do. And I can tell you on the flip side, I've heard leaders say, well, I would like to give it to them to do, but they don't do it the way I want them to do it, or they don't do it in a timely fashion, or I have to do it all over again and they just wasted time, right? Don't we hear all of these things? I can't find the right person to delegate to. And then the people are there sitting like, give me some work, give me some more to do, right? So we want to talk in this session on how we can fix that. But delegation helps us both to grow. Delegation helps the person that you delegate to grow their capability. And it also grows you as a leader in showing how to give instructions and how to speak with clarity and how to give feedback on people's performance and how to let go. Some of us have a problem with letting go of the work because this is our baby. This feels so important to me. I can't trust this with anyone. It's like people who have that first baby, right? They don't want to fly to light on that baby. The second baby comes, they don't care who babysit that. You are babysit, I will pay you. And so we have to get in that same mode of letting go in business. The next one is we want results. When we delegate, tied to productivity and growth, we get results. And this is what we want in business. We want to achieve our goals and our outcomes. We want to say, I was able to make that deadline. I was able to fulfill that order to that client. I was able to get whatever I needed done. So when we delegate, we free ourselves to do more. And that leads me to my last point. Why do we delegate? We want to get to looking like that lady where we could lay back in our chair and be free. We could say, you know what? I'm taking the weekend off. I am going to see this play. I'm going to watch a movie. I'm going to get some conch salad. I am going to clear my head. I'm going on the family island and not have to worry about my business. Anybody ready for that? I know I am ready for that. So now let's move. We talked about why delegate. So let's now talk about what should we delegate? What should we delegate? First thing, we should delegate time-consuming tasks. Now, this is something that I've had to learn. And I've learned this the hard way, simply because I've not been able to deliver on certain requests by clients because it was time consuming. And so here I am trying to juggle all of these balls and dropping balls because I'm unable to get to this task because it takes a lot of time. It takes time maybe to think through it. It takes time to write or prepare it, whatever that may be. So if you find that this particular task is going to be so long and you have to juggle other things, maybe it is best to pass that on to someone else and let them perform that task and free you up to continue to do the things that you need to do. So the first thing, what should you delegate, is a time-consuming task, something that you don't have the time to do. The second areas would be routine tasks. Now, this is what, in my world, I would call this boring tasks, the things that you have to do over and over and over again. And so this may be certain things like maybe payroll or certain, maybe doing your VAT entries. Maybe it's putting things together if you're a craft person or something, maybe just doing finishing touches or closing off or some assembly line type work, whatever that may be. Farm that out to somebody else, especially if you don't like to do it. Draining tasks. So these are the tasks that, they don't bring you any joy. These are the tasks that are like, oh my gosh, I don't want to do this. And you know what we tend to do? This is why a lot of us procrastinate, right? Because it's something we do not enjoy. And so because we don't enjoy it, or because we find it hard, or because we find it overwhelming, we just say, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to put it off, and you may never get to it. So these types of tasks are definitely the ones that you should consider delegating. And the third area is delegate it to somebody who's better at it than you are. Bing, 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 bing. As a leader, you don't have to do everything, and you don't have to be an expert at everything. So if someone is better than you at maybe social media management or doing graphics or greeting customers, maybe you're better at just cranking out the products and someone is better at sales, get somebody to do the sales. Why try to get out front there and be a salesperson? You might be hindering your sales because of your lack of skill or your bad attitude, right? And this is one of the things that as business owners, we have to learn to release. We have to learn to let go, because we can be the downfall of our own business if we are not putting the best people in the right places. If they're better at it than you, let them do it. Next, maybe it's something that someone needs to learn. Now, this is another aspect that we have to consider. As business owners and leaders, we may not find the talent that is operating at the skill level that we need them to work at. And so sometimes we have to grow the talent that we need. And so maybe you're trying to prepare someone to go to their next level, and delegating this particular task will train them on how to do this particular task so that they would be better at it. So what someone is better at, what someone needs to learn, is also what you can delegate to them. How are we doing so far? How's everybody out there? Are we going? Do you agree? Do you have other ideas on what you should delegate? Feel free to drop them in the chat. If you have a question about this, also feel free to put it in the chat or the comments so that we can address it at the Q&A session after. So just want to share with you this 70% rule of delegation. And so when you look at when you should delegate, when you look at the two axes, we see individual readiness, that's the skill or the will, and across the top is the task importance or urgency that you need the task to be completed. So let's look at this and decide when we should delegate. So in the orange, that's the 30% rule of when we should, right? or maybe should not. So looking at low individual readiness skill or will, and the task is low importance, this is when you should delegate and monitor that person. So if this person has low skills, like they're not an expert at what they're doing, then that means you have to monitor what they're doing. You can't leave them to their own devices. This is what causes you to get frustrated, right? Because you give it to someone who doesn't know what they're doing and you expect them to do it well, and they can't. They need help, they need guidance, they need support. And so you throw it on them, they don't do it right, and you're mad and you say delegation doesn't work. No, you didn't delegate well, right? So let's look at the other scenario. So it may be, they may have high skill and there's high important task or highly important task or high urgency. You also need to delegate and monitor, simply because you want to make sure it's going to be done right. Just because someone is very skillful, you also want to make sure that they're going to do it in the right way, the way that you need it to be done, right? Now, the next scenario is they have a high skill, low importance for the task, so then just delegate that out. You know, this is, again, I'm talking about these routine tasks. Maybe it's something small, maybe it's something that, you know what, it won't cause that much of a risk to your organization, and you could just throw that out there and then it's done, right? Now, here is where we do not delegate. Don't delegate in the red. Stop, stop, stop. Someone with low skill, low will, and a highly important or urgent task. Don't give it to that person, because they're not going to be able to get it done at the standard that you want it done. They may not be able to complete it. They may mess it up. And guess what? It's not their fault, because you gave it to them to do. And you already know they don't know what they're doing, you know? So don't do that, okay? Make sure that you assess the person's readiness as far as their skill level, and you assess their willingness also, because you have some people who, you know, they get anxious and nervous. People fear failing. And I need to drop this in here as well. How we handle people making mistakes will make or break people's willingness to take on more. So in our culture, a lot of times we shame people as a form of discipline, as a form of, you know, you can learn because I'm going to embarrass you into learning. And I can tell you, as a career trainer, corporate trainer, we have so many adults who have been traumatized by that method, that's why a lot of people don't use initiative, that they would just do what they're told and they'll wait to be instructed, and they're not going to do any more. Because if you make a mistake, oh my goodness, you get embarrassed, you get called out, you get reprimanded, you get all of these things. So people are not going to be willing to take risks for you. And you want people who are going to take risks, right? So I see your question, Felice. What if it's a new employee and you only have a resume to assess their readiness? Well, I think then that you need to take some time and maybe give them a low task, a low importance, low urgency task to test out their ability. Don't start with anything too high, because again, some people embellish on their resumes and they make them sound like they could do way more than they can. Sometimes people, you know, they front, that's for want of a better word, right? And so they put their best foot forward. Some people have mastered interviewing, and so they talk a good game. So that's a whole other topic. You know, maybe Access Accelerator will do a little HR series, HR for entrepreneurs, right? So I could give you all the ins and outs on how to interview and what red flags to look for and things like that, you know, because that is something that gets a lot of us trapped, where people oversell and then we realize that their skills may not match up to their resumes and what's actually going on, right? So that's a great question. So who do we delegate to? Who do we delegate to? So we want to delegate to people who are highly skilled. Obviously, people who know what they're doing, they're very capable at whatever the tasks are that you need them to do. Hand that over, get them to do it. You want to give tasks to people with high potential. So these may be people who have been growing in your company. You know, they've been learning and they've grasped things, they're getting things done, they've come to a place of mastery with certain things, and you could see, well, this person has a lot of potential. This is that person who you think maybe can learn more, right? So they maybe mastered one aspect, and then you want them to move on and to do some more, right? So that's the type of person that you would want to give extra tasks to, or additional tasks away from you to them. And then you can delegate, and this is where you can think out of the box, because a lot of times you think, well, I don't have this person employed. I don't have anybody employed. It's just me. Well, then listen, we are in what we are calling the gig economy, G-I-G, the gig economy. You have a lot of people, especially since COVID, who do not want a full-time job or who want to work remotely, right? So these create very innovative ways for you to get help without getting bogged down in having to provide benefits, like, you know, paying insurance and all the other costs attached to full-time employees. You can get contractors, you can get consultants, you can get people who, you know what, just pay me for the project. I don't need to be your employee. I don't want to be your employee. I want to stay home, work in my pajamas, and crunch that work out. And so we need to find those external experts who can help us get the work done without adding tremendously to your costs. And there's a way that you can do that as well to assess, because you have some people out there who also like to sell a dream that they are this great consultant or whatever, but they don't have a lot of experience, right? So you really need to pay attention to who you are picking and vetting them properly. So you can pick the right people to help you out. Virtual assistants are out there. I can tell you, I just connected with a company that they have a company that's dedicated to finding you the best virtual assistant that they need at a very, very low cost. I would say less than minimum wage. But it's very helpful. There you have other gig websites out there like Fiverr. They have some ones in the Caribbean as well, where you can just find freelancers, right, to do very, very good work at a low cost. So these are creative ways for you to do that. Do you recommend foreign virtual assistants? It can work for you depending on what you need, right? If it's more back office stuff, and then you also have to factor in the time difference and everything, it may work, right? So it just depends. If you need someone who's going to create content for you, if you need somebody who's going to find leads for you, you know, build up data, do research, then yes, I would say yes, go for it. Nicole, I see your question where you're the only employee to help you prioritize tasks without getting stressed out. Well, I would suggest you looking at the third thing as an option. And you may say, well, I can't afford it, but sometimes when you want to scale, you got to try to afford it in the best way possible, right? Otherwise, one other way that I would suggest, if you're the only person, is to try what is called in time management, time blocking. So that means segmenting your day to deal with certain things. This is when you have multiple projects to work on and not a lot of time. And so you may say, I'm going to dedicate the first hour of my day to checking emails and responding to clients. Then I'm going to take 2 hours to do product development or to make cold calls or to do follow-ups. And then so you block your day And so even if you're not completed, you stop with that particular task and you move on to the next one, right? So you try as much as possible to stay in flow in that time period so that you can get as much completed as you can. That's the best suggestion that I can give you to help with that when you're working on your own. So how do we delegate? I'm going to give you just a couple of tips on how to do that, right? So number one, you want to practice clarity. This is one of the biggest complaints that employees have when getting assignments. You didn't explain to me exactly what you wanted. And then so I went and I did it the way I thought you would have wanted it, or I did it the way I thought it should have been done. And then I present it to you and you tell me that it's wrong. That is very frustrating to people because they feel like you've wasted their time. So clarity is very important. Be very clear, be very specific about what it is that you're giving people to do, okay? And you don't want to assume that people know everything. So you want to assume that they don't know. And you go from step 1 to step 2 to step 3, and I want it this way. Don't make any assumptions. And then you ask people to, summarize to ensure that they've understood the assignment that you've given them. All right. And don't just ask them, you understand? Because people always will say, yes, I understand, even if they don't. Because again, people don't want to be made ashamed, embarrassed, or feel like they don't know, right? So a lot of times people will say, I understand, and then they'll go and ask their coworker, have you ever done this for Miss Bo before? What you think she want, right? And so there's no clarity there. The second thing is you want capability. You want to look at the skill level of who you are giving the task to make sure that they are able to and willing to perform the task. And the final point is you want to have check-ins. So if you've given a particular deadline, maybe it's a week, maybe it's a few days, maybe it's 2 weeks. You want to have check-ins. Now, people will feel like, oh, you micromanaging me. I don't need you to hover over me. I understand it. I understand what I know you understand, but the deadline is important. This task is important. And so I need to make sure that you are tracking well, because if you're having a challenge along the way, maybe we need to change direction or bring in more help, or I need to help you. I need to know that. So make what they would say, normalize check-ins, normalize giving feedback, normalize having that open door where people can come and ask questions and get feedback. This is what I've done so far. How am I doing, right? And get comfortable with telling people how they're doing. So this is my time to check in on you. How are you doing with this topic of delegation? Because I am actually at the end of my presentation and we're going to go into some Q&A. So I just want to know, how are you feeling at this point about delegation? Are you feeling better than you did when you came in? Are you feeling affirmed that, hey, I think I'm doing this well? Or are you feeling like, you know what? I was afraid to delegate before, but now I feel a bit more comfortable and I'm going to give it a try. How are you feeling? Question here. Okay, good. Really inspired to make some additional changes. Awesome. That's good. And I guess we'll wait until our Q&A. We have some questions coming through in the chat, so I will stick to my time allotted and make sure that we can get that great discussion coming through. So I will close on this point. Delegation sets you free to do more of what you love. Many of us have started our businesses and we operate businesses because we love what we do. But sometimes the work of the business, working in the business, can cause us to move away from what we love. And we have to spend more time as business leaders and owners to spend time on the business. That's thinking time. That's being strategic. That's finding new clients. That's thinking about ways to innovate. We need time to do that. We need to be free to do that. And delegation sets us free. So thank you very much for that. And we will pause now for Q&A.
Thank you so much, Simumbo. No need to pause at all. We can roll right on into our question and answer. And just a reminder, everybody, if you guys have any questions that you would like to ask Ms. Bo, please feel free to place them in our Zoom chat and or our Facebook chat, where we are currently live on our Facebook platform, and that's at Access Accelerator at Small Business Development Center on Facebook.
All right, so then I will address the first question that I saw. Okay, so Cheyenne has a comment. You had a case where an important task was deferred to next year. Wow. Felice asked, do you think perfectionists struggle the most with delegating tasks? Yes, I think perfectionists struggle because they just want everything to be perfect, and you have to be able to just release it. You know, it's not always going to be perfect. Sometimes you just need to get done. Now, it doesn't mean that you want to lower your standards or you don't want it to be excellent. You want it to be excellent, but you don't want this desire to be perfect to paralyze you from getting things done. You always see things that could be fixed. I published books where I saw mistakes on the back, and I'm like, you know what? Am I going to worry about this one mistake on the back? Or am I going to, it's already printed. What am I going to do? So we can be anal about things, but then at the end of the day, at what cost? Is it going to cost you submitting a proposal? Is it going to cost you a client? Then maybe you just need to let it go. And you learn your lessons as you go. So if you realize, well, this particular task maybe takes more time or it requires some other type of approach, then you perfect as you go. Perfect as you go, but don't let it stop you from getting and sharing the work, right? Sharing the work helps you and it helps the person that you are sharing the work to. All right. Anitra is asking, how often should we be asked for feedback, or should we ask for feedback without making them feel like you're micromanaging? That's a great question. So I would say you need to look at the deadline, right? And the time frame that you gave them to perform the task. And then you want to have those check-ins, as I call them, or ask for feedback periodically, right? So for instance, if you gave them a week, I would do your first check-in maybe after 2 days, because you don't want to wait until the day before it's due. And if they're having a problem, you don't have much time to fix it, right? So I would say by day 2, ask, how's it going? Or ask, let me see what you have so far. And then we can move on from there. A lot of it is in our approach, and it's in building relationship with our teams so that they know when I'm asking, it's not because I'm pressuring you, but because they know that Mrs. Cash Ferguson, she likes things to be done a certain way, and she likes to be on time. She doesn't like to be, having things lagging or rushing or being under pressure, right? They begin to learn you. And as good employees, we should be able to manage up, right? We should be able to learn our manager, know how they work and what they prefer, and not complain about everything, right? So I hope that answers your question. So I would schedule regular feedback based on the time frame given, right? And you want to, there's something that we do in customer service where we say we under promise and over deliver. So if you know that this thing is very important, then you may need to give a deadline that's going to give you some wiggle room for eventualities, right? So if, for instance, the thing is due in a month, then maybe you need to tell them 6 weeks ahead, so that when they get it in, and you tell them a month, 6 weeks before. So that means you have 2 weeks of wiggle room in case something goes wrong, right? So that's also another approach. that you can take. Oh, I'm glad everyone is feeling inspired, feeling better, feeling affirmed, feeling encouraged. This is helpful. I'm very happy about that. Thank you so much.
Yes, Simone, we have a comment on Facebook here by Shar. She says, I find my issues being too empathetic. If I know someone's already having a rough time in their personal life, I may not want to put more on their plate. What are your thoughts on that?
That is an excellent question. And I'm glad that there is empathy there, because sometimes we have leaders who are the opposite, right? And they will pile it on and could care less. But people who are givers and people who are in serving roles as a leader, as a business, you know, you're providing a service. And so we tend to have that servant mentality. And I don't mean that in a demeaning way. I mean that you are a giver and you love to serve and you love people to feel good, right? And so sometimes that also becomes our Achilles heel, which means it's our place of weakness, because we tend to get more into the empathy than in the work. And so you have to find that happy balance now, right? So first of all, it depends on your relationship. If they know that they have a lot of going on in their personal life, right? Because again, we can tend to get very parental when we're leading, and we feel like we want to think for people and we want to do things for people. These people are adults and they're working with responsibility. They have a contractual relationship with you, which means they are obligated to get work done. But you are also obligated to be a human being, right? So you have to find that happy medium. I would recommend open, honest conversation, right? And approach that person to say, hey, we have this big deadline coming up. We have work going on. I know you have some stuff going on. How can I support you, right? If you're prepared to provide support. Now, sometimes we have some companies who would pay for their employees to go for counseling. Maybe if that person needs some counseling so they can vent on the outside of work or whatever, maybe they may need to take some vacation, and it's better for you that they're not around and you can get more done. Maybe this is your way of outsourcing to someone else and getting the work done. But I would say having an open, honest conversation so that you're not too caught up in their personal life, right? You need to find that balance, because you are there to get the work done, but you also want to let them know that you understand that they have other pressures, and ask them, how will you be able to manage this workload? And let them tell you, right? And then you move on from there. I hope that that response is helpful to you. So empathy is good, but you don't want to get out of balance with empathy, right? Because sometimes two people could play you. People use that, your soft heart, to their advantage, and they will always have a crisis. They will always have an issue, and they use it to get out of work. So we also have to be discerning, and then we also have to be firm as well as compassionate when we are leading others. Another question here, how do you personally manage your work? Do you tend to time block or outsource assistance? So yes, I do both. I try to time block, and I've also had to outsource certain things. I've also had to turn down certain things that I know, you know what, I cannot do it. I found that I'm just like Shay, you know, always kind-hearted, always wanting to help. And I found myself getting in a space where I was running myself ragged. And it wasn't because of the business, it was just that I was trying to please everybody. I was trying to make everybody happy. And I was depleting myself, right? So there were certain things that I had to now begin to say, no, I cannot take that on. No, and it isn't even a matter of are they paying or not? Because a lot of people know me. I mean, even if it's not paid, I will happily do it. If it's going and doing a school presentation or whatever it may be, it isn't the money so much, but time is critical. And creating more space to do the things that are important is vital, right? Creating those priorities and understanding what is most important to you and in your business. And so what I realized is running around ragged, not being able to function properly, not being able to fulfill certain things is not a good look. And so that was something that I know I needed to fix, right? So here's another question. Is there anything we shouldn't delegate to employees and consultants? Yes, absolutely. So those tasks that are, as mentioned, very important or even highly confidential, some things that may have a high risk. So if there is a mistake, there may be, you know, higher risk of, could be a lawsuit, it could be complaints, public outcry, you know, I mean, whatever that may be, that you have to determine, you know what, can I trust giving this over to someone? What would be the impact on the business if there is a mistake, right? So you want to look at the type of task that it is, the importance of it, the confidentiality. Like I know some people who, especially people who cook and things like that, like they certain things they would not delegate because they don't want the employee to maybe know their recipes or to know certain things about their business, to know their financials, right? I mean, so you have to determine what's most important, but also something that you can trust giving over to someone else. Okay. I have a daughter who is excellent at IT. Should I hire her and pay her according to her skills or discuss a pay scheme with her? I love this question, Portia and Emmeline. I see your hand. We can come to you next. Now I have conflicting feelings with this, Portia. Now, if you are going to treat your daughter like an employee, then I would say yes. Go ahead and hire her. I think you should discuss the pay scheme, because not because she's your daughter that you should feel that you could just pay her anything, because she would be like any other employee and begin to feel frustrated and say, you overloading her with this work, and she doesn't feel fairly compensated. So I would say still discuss what pay you are prepared to offer. If you all have to have a little negotiation, have that negotiation, have that conversation up front, and also share your expectations. That not because you're my daughter that I don't have things that I need to get done. And here's why I said I have mixed feelings about it. I find that when we hire family members, that this can be the downfall of our business, because we don't always hire the best family member to do the work. A. B, when they are not good employees, they frustrate your other employees who are not family members, and then they can't complain. They can't report the daughter to the boss. And so you end up where with high turnover, because people are going to leave the company because they feel like, I just cannot work in this family business. And we hear these horror stories over and over and over again of people who work in these family businesses, and the families are running rampant in there, not working properly, frustrating everybody, you know, and just causing so many problems. All right. Emmeline, I want to get to you. I'm mindful of the time. Do you want to unmute? Emmeline Richardson? Not sure if she's still there, but that might have been a hallelujah moment she was having. So I see Nicole. This is a great point here. I'm a one-man band service business in the cleaning industry, and I find myself wanting to do such a perfect job of wowing the customer that I spend more time than needed on one job. Oh boy, I understand that. I try to better manage my time spent on a job by setting alarms on my phone to warn me after every hour has passed. Any other suggestions on better managing my time on each job? That is excellent. That's an excellent strategy, right? To set that alarm. And what else you can do is, and this is something that we do in the hotel industry and whatnot, right? And this is why housekeepers would have a time frame for each room, and then they have a quota of rooms. right? So you can employ the same thing. So if you are cleaning a house, for instance, maybe you have a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house that you're cleaning, then you need to determine how much time. So you need to time yourself the next time that you are cleaning to say, okay, this is how long it takes to clean a standard bedroom. This is how long it takes to clean a bathroom. And you need to identify what you're actually doing when you are cleaning. What does cleaning mean, right? Because I've seen some cleaning companies where they will tell you, well, we will do A, B, C, D, but we're not doing E, F, G, or H, right? So you will have some cleaning companies where we will sweep, we'll vacuum, we'll mop. We will clean down surfaces, right? We will clean your fans or whatever, but we're not washing your clothes. We're not washing your dishes. We're not putting things away, things like that, right? So you need to be able to identify what are the tasks that you're doing and then time yourself. Maybe on a job that is not as time critical, you can do that. So you don't feel the pressure of, I need to finish this job, right? Maybe you could take your time and figure out how long does it take me to clean. And maybe if it's an office, you can determine how many offices. Maybe they have 5 offices and a bathroom with 5 stalls in it, or a male restroom, a female restroom. How long does it take me to go through my checklist, my cleaning checklist? And that way you can keep yourself on track. But setting those alarms, and then you can set the alarms accordingly, because now you can say, and they actually have apps that do this for people in hotels and whatnot. We see it with like the food delivery, where they have to check in and say, okay, the delivery is on the way. It's been picked up, right? It's been delivered. So you have the same kinds of apps for cleaning as well, right? So in hotels, once they enter the room and they click that they've entered the room, and then they will be measured, their performance is measured based on their ability to clean the room within the specified time frame. So I hope that that helps you in some way. I think the alarms though are great reminders. I do it to myself in the morning just to get out. I have like 3 alarms that go off. One to try to wake me up, one to when I really need to be up, one to let me know, okay, you got an hour left. The other one to say, okay, now you need to be leaving the house, right? And so I find that those alarms are really, really helpful. So I'm trying to see. What is the difference between, what is the difference between delegating responsibility and delegating authority? Man, believe you on point. And is it important to delegate both? Now this is, Lord, she will make me preach. All right. So delegating, the difference between delegating responsibility and delegating authority. Very powerful question. Now, delegating responsibility means that you're giving someone a particular task to do, but the authority remains with you. So it means that they will perform the task, but they still have a responsibility to report to you, to do all this sorts of thing, whatever. You may delegate authority to someone to give them not only the responsibility, but the accountability for something or particular phase of work. So for instance, you may make someone a project leader. Now they may not be a manager, but you want them to lead a particular project that you have going on. Maybe you have a big order that you need fulfilled, and this person has proven, themselves, the leadership ability, they understand what you need, they know how to get the work done. And so you've delegated authority for them to run that project, which means maybe they have to manage other team members. Maybe they're responsible for ordering supplies. Maybe they're responsible for beginning to end of that project, and still accountable to you, right? You've only given them the delegated authority over that project. It doesn't mean that they run in the company. It just means that they're running that particular project. right? So that's a very important distinction. Some projects or some tasks may require more authority, because sometimes you have people who will be like, well, I ain't listening to you. You who you is. You ain't my boss, right? So you may have delegated to someone and say, well, you know, you need to coordinate and liaise with so-and-so. Sometimes you have to communicate to the rest of the team to say, hey, I have delegated authority for Felice to do this project, and I need you to cooperate with her and give her what she needs to get it done, right? So I hope that that answers that question. Cheryl, I see your hand up. You can feel free to unmute.
Okay, good evening, everyone. The reason I just commented and said, never give a person a position until you find out what they can handle. From experience, I had a lady came there, worked for offshore bank 55 years. I thought she was it. I had a 38 years old came in and run circles around her, and she felt frustrated because the 55-year-old who I had as office manager, I should have waited to see what she could do and not say, like you said earlier, and the comment saying that, oh, because you thought they could probably, because of their position, they have this wonderful resume, but you get to find out it was only on a piece of paper. And so that lady who I bought as office manager, because of her beautiful resume, almost drove me crazy. She knew nothing about office work, and I own a tour company. And I would tell her what I wanted to do with the bookings after 40 years of experience. Oh, I was office manager. The staff began to tell me, oh, you drive, so we listen to the office manager. I eventually had to let her go, and the 38-year-old, who is now, I've proven myself, is doing a wonderful job. And she didn't have all this beautiful resume, but I watched her. And another thing, again, I did bring in an HR person part-time who worked 35 years as HR, as a good friend. She's helping me out. And you know, we have girls in my office, I would be sitting in there and they would be on the phone talking their personal business and like nothing happened and making mistakes. And so this lady, along with my lawyer, we put a policy together that they had to sign. If someone call you on the phone and it's not related to business, let them know I'm at work, I'll call you on my lunch hour when I get a break.
Good.
And so it's so important to have the HR, I prove that. And then when you have these big old titles as office manager, oh, I'm office manager, please do not give a person a position until they can prove themselves. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you for that. And I think I see your vehicles all over the road. Good job. Keep up the great work. And you're absolutely right. And I think, you know, in those interviewing and screening process, this is why a lot of companies tend to put a lot more effort at the front end. You can't just depend on the single interview. Sometimes we have to give people what they call aptitude tests. You know, if you're hiring someone to be an office manager, you want to get, you know, see what their computer skills are like. How can they craft an email? Like, if I have to write my letters for you, then I don't need you. You understand? You should be able to draft a letter or, you know, do certain things independently of me. And so those sorts of things you can test before you hire anybody, right? You ask behavioral type questions. What did you do in situations like this? Or tell me about results that you achieved in this. And those types of things will get you some answers that will say, you know what, I think this person Flamin, you know, I don't really think they know what they're doing, right? And helps you to screen a little better. Question from Chester, and I think that this will be our last one. What do you find are the best incentives for employee buy-in that might ensure you get the most from delegating, i.e. put their best foot forward? That is a great question, Chester, about incentivizing delegation. And you may say, well, boy, you want more money? You want more money just for doing the work? But sometimes it isn't just money, you know, sometimes it can be, I was in a conversation today, you know, people were saying just some perks, you know, if it's a gift certificate or a show of appreciation, maybe you want to start having employee recognition at the next meeting, or you do a dinner for two, you do a gas voucher, a grocery store voucher, or commissions, however it is that you can start to think through ways that you can offer people a reward just to show your appreciation to your employees would help them feel like, you know what, doing this extra task or doing this task will show that you appreciated that I did a good job. And sometimes it's as little as telling them you did a great job on this project. And I'd like to do this again with you and tell them what this could possibly lead to. Tell them how they benefit from it. You know, so I hope that that answers the question. It can be as little as a card to financial benefits, as well as to other forms of reward and appreciation, profit share, all sorts of opportunities and ways to explore incentivizing. But thank you so much, Access Accelerator, for this opportunity, and all the best to all of you as you delegate your way to freedom and a stress-free life.
An excellent session. We definitely need part 2, 3, 4, and 5, right? But it was really, really, really good. I think I echo the sentiments as I've seen in the chat, as well as persons messaging in. I think it was an excellent session, and we will definitely need a follow-up. So I have a trivia. Simone spoke about a village, and a village that helps you with delegating, but also that helps you when it comes down to just letting your hair down. She started a presentation with someone that I personally, it looks like that. But nonetheless, when she spoke about a village, she talked about a support system. And my trivia question, you can type your answers. The first person to get the answer will, of course, win my prize. The most important members of Simone's support system include God and her blank. The most important members of Simone's support system include God and her blank. First response that is actually correct. It is more than one thing, I'll tell you that. There are 2 things. So I see some people putting 1, and that's a half of the answer. She specifically mentioned that as well as something else or someone else, and a different grouping of people. All right. I see says tribe, someone says family and church, church and family, community. There we go, shaking, gotcha. So I saw a lot of persons speaking about family, some persons speaking about tribe, but they didn't bring it together. And so she mentioned that, yes, a part of it, God is first, and then her family as well as her tribe, or that close inner circle. So shaking, you are my winner. You can stop to the office tomorrow, as Simone eloquently put, taking that opportunity to gain control, not lose it, is important. And so we at Access Accelerator want to help you to let your hair down. And we have a $100 gift certificate for Skin Solutions Spa. So you can come to the office and collect that from us tomorrow, Miss King. All right, so we have, as you know, we're still within, wow, nice prize. Thank you, Simone. We are still within our fitness and wellness initiative. And I hope to see you all at our remaining sessions that are to help the Bahamas to become a better and more healthy nation, one session at a time. Good afternoon, everyone.